Hi, everybody. It's me. It's Dr. Kestler from Lorain County Community College, and I am here today with my wife, who is going to be my assistant here in this co-video. Today is April 29th, and it is also my little brother's birthday. Happy birthday, Michael. And I'll get into my temperature in a second. What I want to do right now is talk about the mask. And the mask is, we're going to be talking about going back to work, going back into the workplace, going out into the public. And I want to tell you how important a mask is and a nice feature about the mask. And that is that I'm able to wear this mask. And first of all, if I'm looking at somebody and we are talking to each other, I am protected two ways. One of the ways I'm protected because I'm wearing a mask, and my wife Julie is wearing a mask, and that's two masks that are protecting me. So she's not going to be able to give me a sneeze bath as she likes to. Another advantage of wearing a mask is you can talk to people and have some deniability. So if you are worried about being confrontational, people don't want to say, "Oh, can criticize people for the way they are." I can say, "Hey, jerk, put your mask on," and then I can blame somebody else because they don't know who said it. So you have a little bit more power. This is sort of like the masks are like the internet. You can have some anonymity by wearing a mask. So I want you to all to feel comfortable about that, and I'm going to excuse my wife and there, and then we're gonna go off and finish up. First of all, let me tell you about my temperature today. It is a little high for me, 96.8 or 36 degrees. Again, I have to remind everybody that it's my little brother's birthday, and he is a very important person in my life. Let me move on here. I know we're getting ready to move back, and I'm going to talk about moving back into the workplace, into regular life, or sort of regular life, or partial regular life. But I want to point out that, first of all, this thing is real, and it's also there is an undercounting. According to the Centers for Disease Control, there is an undercounting of COVID-19 deaths. And the reason that there is an undercounting is because many times there are just too many cases going on. We know how many people die. That is kind of a flat, constant level. People die, and that's part of life. Dying is part of life, and that is what we know. Is if we look and we can see the excess numbers of deaths, and there are excess numbers of deaths this year. In places like New York City, there is an excessive deaths between the COVID cases and the deaths that occurred of about almost 2,000, and in other places as well. So clearly, we know we're undercounting cases, but we're also undercounting deaths. And so as we move on, we're going to have to be aware of this. I'd like to now talk about what is inevitable, and that is a second wave. There will be a second wave. There most definitely will be a second wave. And it'll probably be several second waves. There'll be several iterations of viruses going up, and there should be some fairly soon. In fact, in the governor's report today, there was a huge jump of cases in Columbus, and I think that as we relax, you're going to see more cases, and nothing will make a person a believer until someone that they care about has been affected by this. That's what we know from the anti-vaxxers. We know that when somebody close to them suffers from a disease, they become vaxxers, and so I think that is what you're going to see here too. Unfortunately, vulnerable people will still need to remain sheltered in place, and the people who are at special risk of contracting severe disease, severe SARS, basically, is what we call it, severe respiratory syndrome, acute syndrome. And they will need to do that until there is a vaccine. That is very clear. People who are returning into the workplace, into circulation, if you will, are going to get infected. We know that because of the infectivity of this virus that will happen. We will see more cases, and some of them will need to get some acute care, since we know that even of healthy people, people who are in excellent physical shape, those types of people are also prone to getting disease. A certain fraction of them get disease, and we really don't quite understand why that is, or what the situation is, but we know it does happen. And hopefully the healthcare system will be able to take care of them. All right. So I want to talk about returning to work, because a lot of people have been asking me, well, what do we do? What am I supposed to do? This has always been a behavioral thing, and it has always been more or less voluntary. It really has. It has been the people of Ohio who have stayed home and respected this this stay-at-home order, the shelter-in-place order. Nobody was holding a gun to anybody's head saying you had to. That just wasn't the case. And so this is a behavioral kind of a process, and you need to be good to each other. I'm going to just say that. And being good to each other means that you need to respect someone else's. Maybe both parties wear a mask. If you not wearing a mask is making someone uncomfortable, you strongly should consider wearing a mask. That the argument of "you're not the boss of me" should have expired in the 8th grade. You really have to respect other people here, and their safety and their concerns, and take them as real. There will be mechanisms to enforce, and the state government, the federal government, and even the private sector are working on this. The private sector knows, your boss knows that they have a responsibility to make a safe workplace, and that they will be in trouble, especially those companies that receive money and from a federal agency. They will be in big trouble in making sure that the process is safe. So there will be mechanisms for you to tell people that whatever practice is going on does not seem to be safe. You would like to have help. And then you can find guidelines from OSHA. So if you go on to this website here, www.osha.gov, and you will find guidelines about how to conduct yourself in the workplace. I think we've all, on occasion, gone to work sick, and you figure, oh, I don't feel good, but I don't want to stay home and be sick. I might as well be sick with somebody else. We're not going to do that anymore. That is not something that is going to happen. We need to respect other people's safety and stay home when you're not feeling good. And I'm sure there will be other kinds of practices that take place. Remember, distancing yourself. You keep yourself a good 6 feet. That's 2 arm lengths away from other people. Wearing a mask is fabulous. Cleaning surfaces of areas where you're in common. Bathrooms need to be cleaned on a frequent basis, and all those kinds of things that we will come to know as being kind of standard. I do have a couple of bright sides to the story today as we move forward, and that is remdesivir was a drug that was in a couple of trials. I'll tell you that one study published in The Lancet did not show benefit, but there's about to be a newer study showing that it shortens the recovery time. And if you shorten the recovery time, you can maybe get fewer and fewer people from going through the more serious kind of disease, which is a more protracted kind of a situation. So, when you see cases today, you see problems in a month, from the people who have this prolonged kind of illness, or you see problems with them in the long term. Now, one other thing I want to point out is, and this is about 31% improvement in some of the patients, and it's not great, but it's encouraging, and it might be something something that we can build on, something that we can go through. The biggest hope has to be the vaccine. It has to be the vaccine. And this is an old story, but I just want to point out that they had a trial of the vaccine in monkeys. This is a vaccine was basically based on MERS. This is the fact that MERS and COVID-19 are similar enough that they could kind of reformulate, and they already had that vaccine in pretty close to being marketed or pretty close to being worked. So they retooled it a bit, and I hate to make promises, but they say that they might have a vaccine on the market by September. And these are people I think it's wonderfully ironic and great that it's coming from the Edward Jenner Institute, the place where vaccines got their start. Edward Jenner, as you know, I'm a big fan of Edward Jenner. And I think that is where this study is taking place, and I have a lot of hope on it. If they can get a vaccine by September, everything is changed. Everything is changed. Everything is all glorious at that point for everybody, and we can go back to going to concerts and things. I know I showed you this picture of Mike DeWine yesterday. I'm showing it to you again just to show you that's what somebody who is looks like. That's when you see somebody with a mask, don't think weird. I want you not to think weird. I want you to see somebody in a mask and say, cool mask. And that mask is going to enable me to do things like say things under my breath and not have you know that I said it. And as an older person, we love to speak our minds. And now I'm going to be able to do it with, I didn't say it, that guy said it. And so that is the cool thing out there about this whole mask situation. So I just will leave you with that, and I want to tell you all to be good to each other. Wear your masks out. Try it, and may you all persist like a lentivirus. Thank you very much.